we are actually facing a coming together of short and long-term changes, and changes at both the surface level and changes deep in the structure of the system itself. I suppose what the geographers would call the tectonic plates of the international monetary system.
That, I'm sure to many, is rather abstract. So let's give concrete examples. What is going on? What makes sense to follow at the moment? And what signals that the system as such is actually about to change?
Okay, the key thing is to remember that national monies used internationally are always political, whether we acknowledge it or not. And then most times we don't acknowledge it. When the system is working as it should, the political origins of the use of particularly the United States dollar are not obscured, but they're not in the forefront of people's minds. But every national currency is political. So in times of great political change, we are forced, hopefully, to look back at what are the political conditions which underlie, in this case, the use of the United States dollar as an international currency, previously the United States, the UK pound, and previous to other fiat currencies.
There seems to be kind of a dichotomy. On one hand, Trump says we need to change how things are being done, so it's beneficial to the US or more beneficial to the US. On the other hand, he says, and you all most likely are going to be displeased, but you have to be still part of the regime. Otherwise, you're going to be punished for it. There was a clear signal, especially towards the BRICS countries, that should they try to ditch dollar, he will punish them. Which, by this logic, seems that we are getting a bit of an academic newspeak, if you will, from the realm of soft power. There was a coalition of willing, accepting the US dominance, to the coalition of unwilling, which often is short-lived or generally has a fairly limited time span. Do you read the situation as such, or would you argue that there are certain nuances or that it is different as we speak?
I think your analysis is pretty accurate at the moment. The issue in terms of the continued use of the dollar and the maintenance of the United States dollar as the top currency would be that underneath it all, there's increasing concern about the level of the United States debt, because of course the use of any currency depends upon the confidence that people have in the currency. Now, there are certain technical requirements, system requirements that the market puts on in terms of the use of the dollar, which in the past, of course, have not been questioned. Yet we're getting to a position at the moment where, from my point of view as an international political economist, the confidence that other countries have in the ability of the United States to manage its economy, but also to manage its debt. And the United States national debt is approaching 37 trillion United States dollars, with the analysis suggesting from the Congressional Budget Office that if Trump's policies are followed through, that will rise to 45 trillion United States dollars.
We'll get back to that in a second. I'm just gonna ask one more question regarding the debt, the US debt in particular, and that might actually create in the midterm already some disturbances, and that is the fact that not only China but also countries, regimes fairly friendly towards the US, such as India, are buying less and less of the American debt. And of course that, and this is a warning that, for instance, Ray Dalio, one of the well-respected market players, hedge fund managers, raised a couple of times already in the course of the past years, can lead towards or to social instability in the US, because of course this equals, the debt equals funding of basic state institutions and institutes. Is that something that you take seriously, or is it rather a mental exercise at the moment and then a near to mid-term, let's say 5 years, to put a timestamp on it, future?
The question of debt, and I would agree with Dalia on this, is of fundamental importance because it underpins the confidence that the outside world has in using the United States dollar as their reserves, in other words, a store of value, and also in terms of transactions, in terms of its liquidity. Now, the United States accounts for about 64% of total world debt at the moment. It also accounts for just under 60% of international payments and 80% of the financial market transactions out of total 200%, because there's two currencies involved. And in 2025, the United States represented 60% of the global reserves. Well, now that's down from 5 years ago when it was just under 70%. So obviously things are changing. What is important here is to strip away the non-questioning of the debt itself. And already the Trump regime, the Trump administration in the United States is battling this, because there's a lot of the market watchers beginning to say, look, this is not just a problem for 5-10 years down the line. This is actually a problem now. A combination of inflation and debt is political dynamite. And it always has been throughout history. One of the explanations for the downfall of the Roman Empire is the inflation through the currency. So it's a fundamentally basic problem. So I think at the moment, and particularly in the United States, with inflation going up and the failure of the Trump administration to be seen to be adequately addressing this, whether this will be addressed later on is another problem. But at the same time, the potential massive increase in the debt itself is clearly, in my view, going to present potential problems, not just within the next few years, but essentially down the line, because managing a debt of up to $45 trillion at the same time cutting taxes will upset not just non-American holders of the United States dollar, but also the American markets themselves. And already the bond markets, so-called bond vigilantes, are beginning to respond to this.